world to stories here at home. This is the National News Broadcast. A pleasant evening. I'm Dilanjali Anand.
And I am Tilina Udayaratna. First off, your look into headlines for tonight.
The debate on the second reading of the 20th Amendment to the Constitution passes with a two-thirds majority. Several opposition parliamentarians direct their support to the government. The 14th death related to COVID-19 in the country, reports from Kuliapitia. Quarantine curfew in 6 police jurisdictions in Colombo. Curfew in Kotahena enforced from 6 p.m. today. A new housing project with all facilities to the city of Hatton. 6 suspects, including the wife of Zaharan, in remand custody until the 4th of November.
For those and other stories in detail. The second reading of the 20th Amendment to the Constitution was passed in Parliament with a two-thirds majority this evening. A total of 213 members of the Parliament were present during the vote and 156 voted in favour of the constitutional amendment while 65 voted against it. A division was taken using the electronic voting system at around 7:40 p.m. today, while MPs who were unable to use the electronic system gave their vote verbally. The result of the vote was read out before the House by Speaker Mahinda Abewardena after tallying. Several opposition MPs, including Diana Gamage of Samagijana Balawega, as well as certain MPs of the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress and the All Ceylon Makkal Congress, reportedly voted in favour of the bill. Former President and current SLPP parliamentarian Maithripala Sirisena was absent during the vote. The second reading vote will be followed by the committee stage discussions, with the final vote set to take place tonight.
Well, on the same note, the 2-day-long debate of the second reading of the 20th Amendment to the Constitution concluded this evening. Minister of Justice Ali Sabri made the address in reply to the debate. Addressing the Parliament, Minister Ali Sabri said that there was a big debate on the dual citizenship with the introduction of the 20th Amendment to the Constitution. He reminded that the previous government brought the clause on dual citizenship into the 19th Amendment to the Constitution to bar President Gotabaya Rajapaksa or Basil Rajapaksa contesting elections. He pointed out that under clauses 26 subsection 1, 2 and 3 of the Constitution, there is a no category called dual citizens, and all citizens of Sri Lanka are treated with equal rights. However, as a responsible government which considers the public opinion, a group of government MPs met with the President and discussed about the issue of dual citizenship in the 20th Amendment. In this discussion, President Rajapaksa pointed out that the clause which prescribes dual citizens to contest in elections in Sri Lanka was introduced in the 19th Amendment as a personal vendetta against him. Therefore, he requested to remove that clause in the draft of the 20th Amendment. Minister Ali Sabri said, however, the President agreed to introduce a new clause that imposes restrictions on dual citizens in the new Constitution, which is scheduled to be introduced to the Parliament within a period of 1 year. The Minister said that the new Constitution is now being drafted and it will be adopted in the Parliament within a course of 1 year, and the whole government is committed to introducing a better Constitution for all Sri Lankans to live together enjoying equal status.
And now we bring you several comments delivered by the government and opposition parliamentarians during the debate of the second reading on the 20th Amendment to the Constitution. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa said that a new Quarantine Act should be brought into the Parliament. He said that the capital punishment should be invoked against those who have been proven to be terrorists in terrorist organizations, as well as for drug traffickers. He further added that such matters should be prioritised in the national agenda at present. Minister Ali Sabri inquired whether the proposal to enforce the capital punishment is his own opinion or the opinion of the party. He said that the opposition MPs have reached out to the Supreme Court claiming not to impose the capital punishment. The opposition leader proposed for a check and balancing system between the Prime Minister and the President with the intention to formulate a people-friendly constitution.
Checks and balances checks and balances
Minister G.L. Pires said that a checks and balance system is a necessity, yet if it exceeds the limits, then no outcome could be achieved. He said that the main concern related to 19th Amendment was that no necessary power was vested in order to fulfill the relevant duties and responsibilities. In example, he said that the 3rd and 4th articles of the Constitution indicate that the prime reasonability of the President is the national security. However, he said that the President cannot hold the Ministry of Defence to exercise the constitutional duties. Therefore, the President has not been constitutionally empowered to safeguard the national security. Minister Udaya Manpila said that the President is a firm personality with the determination to fulfill his duties. He said that they have decided to extend their support for the 20th Amendment accordingly. Therefore, he said that they will stand together with the government to bring a new constitution suitable to the country.
And now coming to some COVID-19 news, media spokesman of the Health Ministry, Dr. Jairwan Bandara, briefed on the present situation related to the Dewlapitiya COVID-19 cluster and explained on the preventive measures to avoid the further spread of the disease in the country. He made these remarks while addressing a media briefing held at the National Operations Centre for the Prevention of the Outbreak of COVID-19 today.
During this COVID pandemic season, we were the most safest country until recent past. Up to now, there are 5,978 cases have been reported in this country. Out of that, 2,507 from Minuangoda cluster. We experience there are new clusters emerging, and most of these clusters arises from the urban areas or else from areas where the human behavior is more crowded. During past few hours, these areas, Grand Pass, Vellampitiya, Modara, Mattakuli and Blumendal area, quarantine curfew for these areas. From 6 p.m. today, the police area of Kotahena also has been declared as of the quarantine curfew is implemented. COVID pandemic is a disease which is highly infectious and recent past duration. Behavior of this virus is more aggressive than the previous time. Because of that, we see within shorter time, the number of infected cases are high. With this COVID-19 infection, we have to be careful about elder population of this country. The age over 60, the people are more vulnerable to get the disease. At the same time, we have to think the complications will be more if the older population get the infection. So it's our duty to safeguard our parents. Because of that, you have to stick into the disciplines that we always explain you to keep your distance with the other people and frequently wash your hands and be careful when you touch your face. You should not touch your face, mouth, nose and eyes with unclean hand. And please wear your face mask from the top of the nose to cover the chin. These disciplines are mandatory. And when you behave with these disciplinary activities, you can give some assurance to the society that you are not a culprit to spread this dangerous disease into the society. It's your duty to inform others who are not behaving according to the rules and regulation imposed by the government. So you have to tell those people, please, it's your duty to behave the way that the health officials informed you. This is not a one person's responsibility. Combating the COVID-19 infection is a collective responsibility. The people who are responsible to combat COVID-19 are all of us. I suppose you will behave responsibly and you will behave in a good manner to safeguard our country. Let's work together. Let's work for common goal. And we should defeat this COVID-19 with collective responsible activities.
And in more news relating to COVID-19, Chief Epidemiologist Dr. Sudat Samaravira confirmed the 14th COVID-19 related death in the country today. Reports have indicated that the deceased had been suffering from several chronic diseases as well. The deceased is a 50-year-old resident from Kuliapitiya. She was transferred from the Kuliapitiya hospital to the IDH in Anguda on the 17th of October. Reports have indicated that the patient had died due to the complications from the chronic diseases she suffered earlier. Commander of the Sri Lanka Army, Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva, said that more than 800 close contacts of the COVID-19 patients identified from the Paliaguda Fisheries Trade Complex have been directed to quarantine centres. The 2 health assistants of the Kurunagala Teaching Hospital have been tested positive for COVID-19. According to reports, steps have been taken to close down the thalassemia and respiratory diseases treatment wards of the hospital temporarily. A total of 50 COVID-19 patients were detected from the country today. 20 COVID-19 patients were identified as staff members of 2 factories in the Katunayaka Free Trade Zone. Meanwhile, 6 patients were identified from the Paliaguda Fisheries Market, while 22 patients have been identified as close contacts of COVID-19 patients. A total of 3,561 COVID-19 patients have been fully recovered in the country thus far, which is a percentage of 58.97. 40.64% of COVID-19 patients in the country are currently receiving medical treatment at present. And in the meantime, quarantine curfew has been imposed in 6 police jurisdictions in the city of Colombo with effect from today. The quarantine curfew will remain in effect until further notice. Accordingly, the quarantine curfew was enforced in Mattakuliya, Modara, Blue Mandal, Grand Pass and Vallampitiya police jurisdictions in the district of Colombo from 7:45 a.m. today. The quarantine curfew for the Kotohena police jurisdiction was imposed at 6 p.m. today. The police have indicated that steps were taken to impose the curfew following the detection of COVID-19 patients in these areas and to proceed with the necessary quarantine processes. The vehicular movement across curfew-imposed areas has been permitted. However, vehicles have been prohibited to stop, load or unload passengers in these areas. Quarantine curfew has been imposed in Gampaha until 5 a.m. on Monday. The curfew-imposed areas include Kuliapitiya, Pannala, Giriulla, Narammala and Dummala Surya police jurisdictions, and they will remain in effect until further notice. 6 Grama Seva divisions in Agalavatta and Palindanuwara divisional secretariat divisions in the Kalutara district have been isolated until further notice. Agalavatta, Gorakoda, Beragama, Dapiligoda, Kakulandara North and Bellana areas have been isolated accordingly. Meanwhile, a total of 596 individuals have been taken into custody for violating quarantine curfew. 76 vehicles have also been taken into police custody. 83 individuals and 13 vehicles have been taken into police custody for violating the curfew within the last 24 hours. Meanwhile, 4 senior police officers have been appointed for the inquiries on curfew permits for the public residing in curfew-imposed areas in the Gampaha district and Colombo North divisions and on the procedures in continuing the operations of factories. Police media spokesman Senior DIG Ajit Rohana has said that the Senior DIG in charge of the Western Province has assigned the officers on this task. Accordingly, SSP NKR Gunaratna has been assigned for the Kalaniya Police Division, ASP Tusita Kumara for the Gampaha Police Division, SP Palita Amaratunga for the Nigambu Police Division and SSP Niranjan Abewardhan has been appointed for the Colombo North Police Division. The Sri Lanka Examination Department has said that the staff currently engaged in duties on GC Advanced Level and Grade 5 scholarship examinations in quarantine curfew imposed areas can use their examination duty appointment letter as curfew permits. In the meantime, duty identity cards of the Examination Department or the SMS sent by the department can be used as permits to report to relevant duties.
And now we bring you the global update of the COVID-19 pandemic. Spain and France became the first European countries to surpass 1 million cases. The same day, both Germany and the United Kingdom reported a record increase in infections. Meanwhile, the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases worldwide has increased up to 40.89 million, while the death toll exceeded 1.126 million at present. Europe has seen a surge in new infections over the last few months, forcing governments to bring in strict new regulations in an attempt to control the outbreaks, with the continent's strictest lockdown in Ireland and an overnight curfew for Rome. Spain has recorded more than 1 million coronavirus cases, becoming the first Western European country to pass that landmark figure. The country reported 16,973 infections and 156 deaths in the previous 24 hours. Since its first diagnosed case on January 31st, Spain has now recorded a total of 1.005 million infections. It is the sixth nation worldwide to report 1 million cases after the US, India, Brazil, Russia and Argentina. Meanwhile, France became the second country in Western Europe and the eighth country to record more than 1 million coronavirus infections. The country has recorded 34,075 deaths, the eighth highest number of deaths in the world. French President Emmanuel Macron declared a state of health emergency and imposed a curfew on virus hotspots, including Paris, earlier this month. Argentina became the fifth country in the world to record 1 million confirmed coronavirus cases. With a population of about 45 million, Argentina is the smallest nation to have passed the 1 million mark. Argentina was one of the first countries in South America to close its borders and impose other restrictions. Despite many measures remaining in place, the outbreak has intensified in the past few months, especially in Buenos Aires province. The United States has the most in the number of confirmed cases and deaths. The nationwide caseload amounted to 8.33 million, with the death toll reaching 221,990. The US reported more than 1,100 new COVID deaths yesterday, the highest daily toll recorded in more than a month. Poland reported 12,107 new COVID-19 cases today, hitting a record high for the second day in a row. It also registered a record of 168 deaths related to COVID-19, 4 times larger than the largest daily increase during the first wave in spring. It recorded a further 15,199 new cases yesterday. The United Kingdom recorded 26,688 new coronavirus infections in 24 hours, the highest daily increase in cases since the pandemic began. A total of nearly 790,000 people have been diagnosed with the disease in the UK.
Well, the United States is likely to have enough safe and effective COVID-19 vaccines available to inoculate the most vulnerable Americans by the end of 2020, Health and Human Service Secretary Alex Azar said yesterday.
Approaching a critical phase.
Top officials at the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention stressed on Wednesday that the coronavirus pandemic is far from over, and the CDC's Deputy Director for Infectious Diseases, Jay Butler, said the outbreak has been worsening as cold weather pushes Americans indoors.
Unfortunately, we're seeing a distressing trend here in the United States with COVID-19 cases increasing in nearly 75% of the country. I recognize that we are all getting tired of the impact that COVID-19 has had on our lives. We get tired of wearing masks, but it continues to be as important as it's ever been, and I would say it's more important than ever as we move into the fall season.
CDC Director Robert Redfield said he was optimistic that 1 or 2 vaccines, likely from Pfizer or Moderna, will be available by the end of the year.
But we're not quite there yet.
Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar was more upbeat about the prospects of a vaccine being available to inoculate the most vulnerable Americans before the end of 2020.
There is hope on the way in the form of safe and effective vaccines in a matter of weeks or months.
Azar said he expects all seniors, healthcare workers, and first responders will be able to receive a vaccine as soon as January, with the rest of the American public able to get a vaccine by April. At recent campaign rallies, President Donald Trump has said the U.S. is, quote, rounding the corner in the coronavirus pandemic. At Wednesday's news conference, Azar was asked about it.
In simple English, sir, are we rounding the corner? And are these rallies a good idea?
Listen, our guidance is the same regardless of setting. Wash your hands, watch your distance, wear your face covering when you can't watch your distance, and avoid settings where you can't do those things.
According to a Reuters analysis, 4 states reported a record one-day increase in COVID-19 deaths on Wednesday. Iowa, Minnesota, Montana, and Wisconsin, a hotly contested state in the November 3rd presidential election, as infections have kept rising. The analysis also showed that Wisconsin reported a record daily increase in new cases, together with Illinois and Ohio.
Now, a volunteer who was taking part in clinical trials of the AstraZeneca vaccine in Brazil has died. The Brazilian Health Authority has confirmed that the trial will continue.
A volunteer in the trial of the COVID-19 vaccine being developed by AstraZeneca and Oxford University has died in Brazil. Brazil's health authority said on Wednesday that although the volunteer had died, the trial would continue. So far, 8,000 people have been given the first dose of the vaccine in 6 cities in Brazil, which is grappling with one of the world's worst outbreaks of the disease. A source familiar with the matter told Reuters that the volunteer who died was likely to have been part of a control group that did not receive the COVID-19 vaccine, suggesting that the volunteer was instead given a meningitis jab. Oxford University confirmed that testing would continue, adding that after careful assessment, quote, there have been no concerns about the safety of the clinical trial, but AstraZeneca declined to comment immediately. This follows a pause in trials of the vaccine last month when a patient in the UK fell ill. The trial resumed days later, but is still on hold in the US. Also on Wednesday, Brazil's president said their federal government would not buy the vaccine from China's Sinovac, contradicting what his health minister said the day before, that it would be included in the nation's immunization program. Brazil has the second deadliest outbreak of the coronavirus after the United States, with more than 154,000 people killed.
Coming back for more news after COVID-19, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa today said he hoped the British government will maintain the prescription on the LTTE. Meanwhile, commenting on the appeal on the LTTE prescription in the United Kingdom, Sri Lanka today said it has sufficient evidence to prove that the remnants of the LTTE and groups aligned with its terrorist ideology are active in foreign countries, working to incite violence and destabilize the country. In a tweet, Mr. Rajapaksa said Sri Lanka defeated the LTTE and put a stop to its brutal terrorist activities. But remnants of LTTE terrorism remain very active around the world and pose a great threat to the national security of any country, he said. In a statement issued by the Foreign Ministry, the government said Sri Lanka has been made aware of the open judgment by the proscribed organization's Appeals Commission (POAC) of the United Kingdom dated 21st of October 2020. The decision of the POAC arises from an appeal filed in 2019 of May by an LTTE front organization challenging the decision of the UK Secretary of State for Home Affairs dated the 8th of March 2019, which refused the application by the group to deproscribe the LTTE from the list of proscribed organizations under the UK Terrorism Act of 2000. While the government of Sri Lanka was not a part to these proceedings at the POAC and could not make direct representations, the government has assisted the government of the United Kingdom by providing relevant information with regard to continued terrorist activities. Well, stay tuned with us. We have more news right after this break. Welcome back to the news, and we have more news here at home. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa says that a program to remove more than 3,000 shanties in the city of Hatton and provide housing facilities for those families will be initiated in the near future. The Prime Minister made these remarks during a discussion on the development of the Nuwara district held at the Parliament yesterday. The government has initiated a program to promote the main interconnected cities in the country for tourists under the Vistas of Prosperity policy statement. Under the program, the Prime Minister has directed special attention to transforming the city of Nuwara and the suburbs into a city suitable for domestic and foreign tourists. The Prime Minister instructed the public representatives of the districts to take steps in developing the areas surrounding the Gregory Lake and the race course. The Prime Minister issued instructions to relevant authorities to attain the maximum development in the district of Nuwara and to improve the quality of the gardens in the city following the commencement of horse racing. He also instructed the authorities to ensure the indigenous sensitive environmental zones in the area and develop the sporting facilities in the Nuwara city while developing the facilities related to tourism by initiating theme parks and cable car projects. A special attention was directed on the development of the city of Hatton, and measures will be taken to expedite the initiatives related to the development of facilities on tourism in the areas from Hatton to Talavakale, Sripada, improvement of the Castlereagh Reservoir for tourism and the conservation of wetlands surrounding Kottagala. Minister C.B. Ratnayaka, State Minister Jeevan Thundaman and Chairman of the Nuwara District Coordinating Committee MP S.B. Disanayaka were present at the meeting.
Releasing the monetary policy review today, Sri Lanka's central bank said that the monetary board has decided to continue the accommodative monetary policy stance. Accordingly, the standing deposit facility rate and the standing lending facility rate of the central bank will remain at 4.50% and 5.50% respectively. The Monetary Policy Review for October 2020 has indicated that the decline in overall market lending rates had resulted following the unprecedented monetary easing measures taken by the central bank thus far during the year. According to the bank, the Monetary Board expects the board-based downward adjustment in market lending rates to continue, ensuring affordable credit flows to productive sectors of the economy in the prevailing low inflation environment. The central bank noted that the global monetary policy continues to remain accommodative as global growth prospects remain bleak with the resurgence of COVID-19 in many parts of the world. However, the Sri Lankan economy is expected to move along a faster recovery path despite the latest surge in COVID-19 cases locally could hamper near-term growth prospects. The central bank also considered that the second quarter of 2020 has recorded a greater contraction than in the first quarter, followed by a recovery in the third quarter of the year. Meanwhile, the central bank has indicated that the unemployment rate has declined to 5.4% in the second quarter from 5.7% in the previous quarter, suggesting that economic activity has remained without much deterioration in the second quarter. According to the central bank, external sector remains resilient with improved liquidity in the foreign exchange market, while inflation is expected to remain within the desired range. Most market interest rates have declined, reflecting the impact of the measures taken by the central bank thus far during the year, and credit to the private sector picked up notably in August 2020, and the upward trend is expected to continue, supported by low interest rates. In consideration of the current and expected macroeconomic developments, Monetary Board has decided to maintain the policy rates.
It was revealed at the Presidential Commission of Enquiry on the Easter Sunday terror attack yesterday that former director of the State Intelligence Agency, Nilantha Jayawardena, has failed to direct the intelligence report sent by a foreign intelligence agency issuing a warning over a terrorist attack to any of the officers of the State Intelligence Agency. Recording a statement before the Commission, the former State Intelligence Director said that he was aware on the possibility of an attack carried out by Zahran and his group even on the 26th of March 2019. Former director of the State Intelligence Agency, Senior DIG Nilantha Jayawardena, appeared before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry on the Easter Sunday terror attack last evening to record a statement. The Presidential Commission commenced the inquiry in line with the evidence recorded from several witnesses during previous occasions. The former State Intelligence Director rejected to explain the reason in front of the media on the failure to direct the intelligence report from a foreign intelligence agency on the 4th of April 2019, issuing a warning over a terrorist attack to any of the officers of the State Intelligence Agency until the day of the attack. He further said that the State Intelligence Agency was not aware of the whereabouts of Zahran on the 4th of April, though they had information that Zahran was in Mavanella until the 20th of January. Testifying before the Commission, the former State Intelligence Director said it was apparent during the intelligence meeting held in the month of March 2019 that Zahran had fled to India, though they had no evidence in this regard, as Sri Lanka Army Intelligence forwarded the relevant information. Accordingly, he had inquired from the relevant officials of the State Intelligence Service whether Zahran was in India, Syria or Sri Lanka. Subsequently, he had brought down the informants from India on the 26th of March and inquired in this regard. Accordingly, he informed all deputy and assistant directors and officers in charge of the SIS on the possibility of an attack in the country instigated by Zahran and his followers. The chairman of the commission inquired whether he was uncertain about the information he received on the 4th of April and further inquired the reason for not disclosing the instruction paper issued on the 26th. In response, the former State Intelligence Director said that even though a certain and verified information was circulated after the 20th of April, they have claimed that no such information was received from India in this regard. Responding to a query raised over his knowledge and certainty on the possibility of an attack on the 26th of March and informing the officers of the State Intelligence Service, he said that he agrees with the Commission in this regard.
Colombo Fort Magistrate Priyantha Lianage has ordered today to remand 6 suspects, including wife of Saharan Abdul Qadir Fatima Hadia, who were detained and interrogated by the Criminal Investigation Department regarding the Easter Sunday attacks until November 4th. The suspects were produced before the court today by the Criminal Investigation Department after completing the detention orders. The magistrate ordered to produce the wife of Saharan Hashim, who carried out the first suicide bomb attack in Shangri-La Hotel in Colombo, to the Presidential Commission of Inquiry on Easter Sunday terror attack tomorrow.